Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed being able to reflect on the conference and share those reflections with the other delegates. We've now come to the end of the conference. I would like to once again thank all of our speakers for such a stimulating set of presentations and lots of discussions as well throughout the 2 days. And of course, I would like to thank all of you for attending and for engaging with us throughout these 2 days. That's all from me. I'm going to hand over to one of the event co-chairs, Professor Rick Parker, to sum up and close the event.
Thank you, Yasmin, and thank you all for sitting with us through this last day and a half. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I hope you have as well. Unfortunately, my other co-chair, Adisa Azapagic, can't be with us today, so I'm left to sum up on my own, but I'll try to do my best. We've looked at 3 key areas of engineering for the future over the last day and a half: engineering for net zero, engineering a resilient future, and engineering the inclusive future. The first thing that really struck me was how these are intimately intertwined. It's not possible to deal with one of the topics without immediately straying into one of the other areas, and that in itself I think is fascinating. Engineering solutions to climate change must be acceptable to the public. They cannot disadvantage individual communities or countries. The climate is itself a complex system of systems. The audience unanimously agreed that engineers are the best people to solve system problems, but the systems themselves may have their own critical and unseen weaknesses and may not be resilient. AI may help us solve some of these complex systems and problems, but may also make the systems even more complex, difficult to regulate, and to predict with certainty the outcomes. Paul Monk's got us off to a good start. He's the UK Business Department Chief Scientist. He showed us the UK's strategy for getting to net zero and the series of what they call carbon budgets that are going to get us there, we hope. We heard from 2 of the co-chairs of the excellent SAPEA report on energy transition in Europe. Those that haven't read it, I really recommend you do. Just go and Google it. The question of equality, as in the final session here, came up again there. As one of the speakers said, poor households spend a higher proportion of net income on energy. If green energy is even more expensive, who's going to pay? Yves Bamberger controversially stated that Europe was doomed to be a net importer of clean energy. I don't think everybody agrees with that, but again, the engineering solutions within Europe have to ensure that's not the case. We then looked at the built environment, recognizing the long lifetime of many buildings and that just having cunning solutions for new build will only address a very small proportion of the problem. Practical, low-cost solutions must be found for the existing housing stock. Then there are the raw materials. Steel, glass and concrete are all very carbon intensive. The SAPEA report interestingly proposed using a lot more wood in future buildings. And then we have to recognise that the built environment is not there as an engineering play pit. It actually has to be a comfortable and enjoyable place for people to live in. On resilience, Roger Kemp talked about the report he'd co-chaired the working group on for the Royal Academy on the safety of complex systems. Many of the issues they identified were not in the complexity of the engineering itself, but the complexity of the governance and management solutions. Add into that a dependency on AI, and your solutions increase further in complexity. Anna Maria from the Swedish Academy talked about the vulnerability of our systems to cyber attack. She postulated that increased standardization of such systems and a domination by a few big suppliers with the same basic algorithmic approaches actually made these systems less resilient and more open to catastrophic failure in the future. We also talked about the need to ensure that our young engineers are taught the systems engineering skills they need to design and manage these complex systems in the future. Today we return to the underlying environment theme inevitably, as it underpinned many of the talks on inclusion. Maria gave us an excellent warning about the possibility of algorithmic bias in modern AI. If the training data is a snapshot of today's world, we really shouldn't be too surprised if the AI solutions replicate and perpetuate the biases we see all around us. She also importantly talked about the need to engage more women in the technical solutions and high-tech solutions for the future. Finally, Nick reminded us, as of many of the speakers over the last few days, of the need for our engineering solutions to be fair, transparent, and defensible. And I know many of you touched on that during the recent breakouts. So in finality, I'll say, I hope you've enjoyed our conference. I certainly have. I want to particularly thank the team at the Royal Academy of Engineering and Nicola Eckersley-Waite in particular for their excellent work of pulling all this together and the help they've had from the Eurocase office. And finally, just to add my own thanks to the speakers, without whom it would have been a very dull and boring few days. So as you go on your way, I hope there's much to reflect on from the conference. I hope it's stimulated further debate outside of this day and a half, and we'll certainly make sure the talks are available. And in particular, we'll gather together many of the reports and books that different speakers have referred to, because that in itself is, I think, a very useful resource. So thank you all for coming. Go safely on your way, and however you travel to where you're going to, try and do it as green as possible. Thank you very much. Goodbye.